She whispered the same prayer every single night for more than half a century. Heaven never answered, not once. No voice, no sign, no miracle. But what happened on the night she finally closed her eyes would quietly dismantle everything anyone thought they understood about unanswered prayers. This is the story of Miriam and the son who came home just a little too late. In a small hillside village where church bells marked the hours and neighbors carried one another's sorrows like shared burdens, there lived an elderly woman named Miriam. She was 85 years old, her hair the color of winter frost, her fingers thin and trembling when she folded them in prayer. Her modest stone cottage stood at the very edge of the village, its single window glowing with candlelight, long after the world had gone to sleep. The villagers knew her routine as well as they knew the sunrise. Every evening, when shadows stretched across the hills, Miriam lit one candle, knelt beside her worn wooden bed, and prayed the same prayer she had prayed for decades. Lord, bring my Daniel home. Wherever he is, keep him safe, soften his heart, let him find his way back to me before I leave this world. More than 50 years passed, the same words, the same tears, the same silence. Daniel had been 22 when he left. Miriam remembered that night as if it still lived inside her bones. The shouting, the accusations, the door slamming so hard the frames rattled. Her only child, her bright, spirited boy, stared at her with eyes full of anger. You ruined my life with your rules and your faith. I never want to see you again. She ran after him into the rain, calling his name until her voice broke. But Daniel disappeared into the darkness and never once turned back. For decades, Miriam waited. She wrote letters to addresses that no longer existed. She asked travelers if they had seen a man with Daniel's eyes. She kept his bedroom exactly as he left it, untouched, frozen in time. Dust gathered quietly on the shelves, as if even time itself was waiting with her. The village slowly stopped asking about Daniel. Poor Miriam, they whispered, still praying for a ghost. Surely he is gone by now. Why can she not let go? Even Pastor Elias, who had baptized Daniel as an infant, gently suggested that perhaps God's answer was silence, that peace might come through acceptance rather than endless hoping. Miriam listened kindly. Then she returned home and lit her candle again. One crisp autumn morning, Miriam did not rise with the bells. Her neighbor, a young woman named Leah, found her still in bed, something that had not happened in 40 years. The doctor arrived quickly, his voice gentle but heavy. Her heart is very tired. It could be days, it could be hours. By nightfall, a small group gathered in Miriam's cottage. Neighbors who had watched her pray for a lifetime now kept vigil as her breathing softened. Pastor Elias sat beside her bed, holding her fragile hand. Miriam, he whispered, is there anything you still need? Anything that would bring you peace? Her eyes opened slowly, and for a moment they held their old strength. I need nothing, she said. I have prayed my prayer. I have trusted all these years. I do not need to see the answer to believe it is coming. He hesitated, then asked the question no one else dared. And if Daniel never comes? She squeezed his hand and smiled, calm and sure. Then I will have spent my life speaking to my father about my son. Love is never wasted. The room fell silent. The candle in the window flickered gently. Miriam spoke again, her voice barely above a breath. When Daniel was very young, he once grew dangerously ill. I prayed all night. I begged God to spare him. By morning, the fever broke. I thanked God for answering. But here is what I learned. I did not pray because I knew the fever would break. I prayed because prayer was all I had. Faith is not a bargain. Faith is trusting, even when the fever does not break, even when the door stays closed, even when the silence lasts a lifetime. Her eyes drifted toward the candle she had lit more than 18,000 nights. I do not know where my son is tonight. I do not know if he remembers me. But I know every prayer has been heard. Whether the answer comes in this life or the next, I have been faithful. And faithfulness is its own miracle. The hours passed slowly. Miriam drifted between sleep and waking, her lips still moving in silent prayer. Just before midnight, she opened her eyes one final time. "Tell him," she whispered, "if he ever comes, tell him I never stopped, not for one single night. Tell him he was always welcome home." She smiled softly and spoke her last words. "Father, I trust you, even now." The candle steadied. Miriam was gone. At that very moment, a few hundred meters away, an old man sat alone in a bus station. His name was Daniel. He was 72 now, his face shaped by decades of regret. In his hands, he held a worn photograph of a young woman holding a small boy, smiling without fear, his mother, himself, a lifetime ago. 3 days earlier, something inside him had broken. He bought a ticket home. If you are listening to this and waiting for something that has not arrived, pause for a moment. Take one slow breath. Place your hand where your heart beats. Ask yourself this quietly: if the answer never comes the way I expect, can I still choose to be faithful to what matters? You do not need to fix your life tonight. You only need to stay kind to your hope. Let that be enough for this moment. The bus arrived at noon. Daniel stepped into the village and learned the truth. He collapsed too late, carrying decades of sorrow. Leah pressed a candle into his hands, still warm, Miriam's candle. Daniel stayed. He lit it every night, continuing the prayer his mother began. On her grave, he placed a simple stone. She prayed, "I came. Love is never wasted. Love is never wasted." If this touched you, like, share, and subscribe, so this light keeps reaching others.